somehow existence incarnates in this body and this mind, which is, of course, a form, and it's a temporary form. Incarnates as consciousness, and everything within our experience are forms that are coming and going. Perceptions, sensory perceptions, feelings that happen, thoughts that arise, ideas we have, concepts we have, decisions we make, confusions we have, everything, all phenomena are what I mean when I say form. Form just means stuff, basically, stuff. And so because our experience is filled with stuff, that's what we tend to be focused on. And we think of ourselves as stuff, or as a thing, or as a being, or as our name, or as our stories, or as our bodies. These are all different things that we identify with, that we think of as me. And yet at the root of all that, at the root of all of our experience, is the awareness, the consciousness that's experiencing all of it, which tends to go unnoticed. I was listening to a documentary from the 1980s on YouTube the other day about Arnold Schoenberg, who's a composer, a German Jewish composer who's considered the grandfather of weird contemporary music, and also the philosopher who's also of Jewish descent, who I didn't even know was Jewish, Wittgenstein. Ever heard of him? So he said something wonderful. They put a little quote of his on the screen. He said, "When it comes to that which language cannot express, it's better to remain silent." So I'm kind of violating that right now. But meditation is the practice of what he was talking about. When it comes to that which language can't really express, it's better to remain silent. Okay, so what does that mean? Does that mean we just don't talk about it? From the scholars who studied him, that's maybe what they thought he was talking about. Just don't try to write about it. Don't try to philosophize about it. But really, it's a practice of being silent in order to connect with that which language can't express. Why can't language really express it? Well, because we're talking about the space from which language arises, right? The space of consciousness out of which thought arises and out of which language arises is something that we can't really adequately express, but we can, of course, refer to it. And right now, as I'm talking, the idea is just to point our awareness toward awareness. Point our awareness toward that which is prior to or underneath thought, underneath form, underneath name. And this week's Parshah is so wonderful for this. It's called Shemot, which means names. And it begins with talking about the names of the Israelites that go down into Egypt, into Mitzrayim. And as we've talked about, Mitzrayim is a symbol for the world of names and forms. It's a symbol for limitation, for things taking a definite form. Why do they come into Mitzrayim? To get nourishment, to eat, to live. So that's exactly our situation right now, is that beingness, which we can't really understand what it is, this miracle of beingness comes into a limited form of us, of this body, of this identity, in order to what? In order to gain the nourishment of experience. And as we act in our lives, there's a tendency of Mitzrayim to happen there too. There's a tendency to get stuck in our lives, in interpersonal relationships, in our work, and our successes as well as our failures. Because with successes, then we get excited about that. We tend to cling to that. And then at some point, of course, it dissipates. It goes away. Everything is temporary. And so we tend to feel that suffering of Mitzrayim. Now Moses was having an identity crisis. First of all, the name Moshe means drawn out of the water. Pharaoh's daughter, who's not his mother, right, takes him out of the water. Now, what is water? Water is fluidity. Water does not have a form. It's a symbol of the formless. But she draws him out of the water and molds him into something that's not really his past. He takes on this new identity as Egyptian prince, right? And then he comes into conflict. He has an identity crisis. He kills this Egyptian who's beating the Hebrew slave, and he gets in trouble. Pharaoh's going to come after him. He runs away from his identity, goes and lives in the wilderness in this nice pastoral life for a while, until he sees this burning bush, which seems to be calling him to his destiny. And what is his destiny? His destiny is exactly where he was running from. So there seems to be this psychological tendency, it's a human tendency, to look around us and see other people, to see other situations, and say to ourselves, if I was only a little bit more like this, I could be like that, right? If I could only be a little better, or take away this fault that I have, or get rid of that thing, then I could be like that guy over there who's doing it right. But this wonderful story of Moses is showing that it's exactly what we tend to perceive as faults. It's exactly what we tend to perceive as our shortcomings. That is the seed of our destiny. We're given our destiny, but our tendency is to resist it. Our tendency is to not fully enter into who we are and become who we are to become. So how does Moses do it? Well, first he gains the insight. The voice of God says, go back, you have to be the leader to free the people, right? And he says, how can I do that? And he says the words, Mi anochi, who am I? Mi anochi, who am I? To do something like that. See, this is the flip side of arrogance. Arrogance and self-deprecation tend to go together. It's these two.
It's too humble.
Yes, humility, but humility can sometimes, this kind of humility, can sometimes be a resistance to being the fullness of what we're here to do. Right? Yeah, so right, Moses was called the most humble of people. I'm just a regular shepherd guy with a troubled past. Who am I to go back? Mi anochi.
Didn't speak so well.
Right. He's not a great orator. How is he going to go talk to Pharaoh? Right. How is he going to go talk to the king? And so then the divine voice responds to him, Ehyeh imach. Ehyeh imach. I will be with you. That's the answer to the question, Mi anochi. Who am I? Who are you? You are Ehyeh imach. Ehyeh means I will be. Could also be understood in the present tense, I am. But it also has this future tense. So it's both being, presence, and also potential. There's this great potential, and this great potential is imach. It's within you. It's with you.
Godliness is in you.
Say again?
Godliness is in you.
Yes. Yes. He says, and you might miss it if you're just kind of reading it through quickly. But to get that, it comes as the answer to the question, who am I? Oh, he doesn't say some other name. Oh, you are great Moses. You are a great leader. No, who are you? Ehyeh imach. This great potential is within you. So there's this paradox of, on one hand, that our deepest being is this formless awareness that doesn't have a particular mission, doesn't have a particular anything to it. It's just aware, it's just awake. And yet, when we can bring that forth and get in touch with that deepest level, then our resistances to what our name and our form is here to do tend to become less important, less strong, less dense. They tend to fall away. And then that potential can come forth. Ehyeh imach. The potential to do what we are given to do. It could be a big thing like Moses going to save the people, or it could be almost nothing. It could be sitting here in this chair. So when we say Ehyeh imach, right, when we contemplate those words, we can use it to bring forth our own presence to be with. What are we talking to when we say imach? We're talking to the reality of this situation in this moment. So can we really say Ehyeh imach? I am being with you, meaning the fullness of this moment.